Hello everyone, welcome to Cypher Page, and today we are going to solve Leetcode number 486, that is predict the winner. In this question we are given an integer array nums and we are given two players, player 1 and player 2. In this game there is a game in which the player 1 starts the game and we have to there is a array, so we have to select the numbers from the array in that manner that we can read the question. Both players start the game with score of 0. At each turn the player takes one of the numbers from either end of the array. That means a player can take from this end or this end. Okay, and which reduces the size of array by 1. So at if the number is selected, this will be like excluded from the array, the element that we have selected. And in this game, when the game ends, there are no more elements, so we have to return that whether there is a chance that player 1 will win the game. The criteria for winning the game is that the sum of elements for player 1 should be greater than player 1 score should be greater than or equal to player 2 score. Okay, so what we will do, you can assume that here it is written that the player 1 is still winner if you have to think like that. Okay, so let's take an example. Here we are given a array 152. So in all the arrays, player 1 will be the person who will start the game. So thus I'm just writing the score here, score 1 or score 2 for player 1 and player 2. Okay, so if the player 1, suppose if the player 1 starts from this side, starts from the start, then his score will count as 1. And now player 2 has the choice to select element either 5 or 2. So if the player 2 will select 5, the score for player 2 will be 5, and score for the again, if the player 1 wants to select, then the total score of player 1 will be 3. So in all the cases, you can try, in all the cases the score of uh, player 1 will be less than player 2, even we try in any optimal way, because player 1 has to start the game. So at any cost player 2 will not let the player 1 to win the game, so it will try to get the max value. So we can think that in any condition the player 1 cannot win this game, so we have to return in this case that it is not possible to win the game in this case. Okay, now let us take this another array, that is 1 5 2 3 3 and the 7. So again player 1 has the option to take either from this end or this end. Okay, so player 1 has the option to select 1 or 7. So if he selects, if by mistakes here the value is 1 is less and the value of 7 is more, but if he selects 7, then at the next iteration player 2 don't let the player 1 to win the game, so player 2 will select 233. So his score will be much greater. At any cost the player 1 will not able to win the game. So here what the player 1 can do, he will smartly select this first element and let the player 2 to select either 5 or 7. So At the next iteration, whether the player 2 will select 5 or 7, his score will, let he selects 7. At the next iteration, player 1 will select 2 3 3. So the total sum for player 1 will be 2 3 4, which is greater than 5 or 7 or 5 plus 7 at any cost. Okay. So in this case, we can say that the player 1 will definitely win. So we will return true. So here we can see, if we try to think greedy, like to have maximum value at the starting, we will not, here it will not work. So we have to think bit recursive function. So what I will do, like think, if the player 1 has the option to select the element, because player 1 will always start the game, uh, player 1 will can select the start element. Okay, if a player 1 will select a start element, then player 2 has the option. This is player 2. Let me draw it clearly what I want to say. Okay, so we have player 1. Player 1 will start the game, and we have player 2. Okay, if player 1 starts the game and takes the starting element, then player 2 has two options. Player 2 has two options. Player 2 may select the element from the start plus 1 index, or it may select the element from end. Okay. Other condition can be like, if player 1 will select from end, then uh, then player 2 again have two conditions. He may select the start element, or he may select the end minus 1 index element. So are you getting? Are you getting? So there are four possibilities at each iteration, we can say. Okay. So we have to somehow try to think optimally, and there can be like four possible conditions. So I have to think recursively that if the if the player 1 selects start, and in both the cases, like in both the cases, for both the cases, suppose here is the condition for both the cases. If for here, in both these cases, player 1 is winning, then it is true. Like he should win in both these cases. Even it is player 2 is selecting from start or end, irrespective of player 2, player 1 score should be maximum. So we should say that score of player 1 should be greater than score of player 2 in both these conditions. So these two conditions are important. So you will write like these are like and conditions, we can say, in both the cases. Similarly, there is second case, that even if the player 1 starts from n, irrespective of player 2's wish, in both the cases, irrespective whether the player 2 starts from start or end minus 1, player 1 should win. So we will write, we can say that there is a condition like that. We can say that in these two cases, these are necessary. So these are and conditions, and in these two conditions, because these are irrespective, these are also and condition, because if it selects from end in both the cases, the player should win. And player 1 has the option to select whether from start, whether from end. So he may take like whether from start or whether from end. Okay, so I hope you got what I want to say. So in short, I want to say that there are total 4 options: whether player 1 starts with start, and player 2 starts with also start plus 1 index. Then there is a second condition. In second condition, that player 1 start will start and player 2 starts with end. Then there is a third condition. uh, these are combined, and these are options for these two. In second condition, that P1 starts from end. Then the first case is that P2 starts from start, and P2 starts with end minus 1. Okay, so these are the 4 conditions, and based on this we can just calculate the total score for each player 1 and player 2. Okay, and the condition is that if score of player 1 is greater than or equal to score of 2, then return true. Okay, then return true. This is what we have to do, otherwise we will return false. Okay, so let's try to code it up. So here we can see we have to use some recursive function. Okay, so let's open Leetcode. So what I will do, I will just first make a like helper function, or can say a solve function, boolean solve function, where I will just pass the this vector nums. Also I have to just give the start and end now. So of course first the size of this nums is n, and we will return this solve function where we will pass this nums array. uh, our start index will be like 0, because we will start from 0 index, and we will pass our end index, that will be equals to here end minus 1. Here start index is 0. Okay, also we need to have some score variables now. So let me define here only. For score 1 equals to 0, and score 2 equals to 0. Okay, now the condition is simple, that if the score yeah, first of all, if the start, that means if we have reached the point in which the start and end are like start is greater than end, that means we have almost completed all the removed all the elements from the array. Then we will return this, that score 1 should be greater than equals to score 2. Okay, let me write in single line. Okay, now the option one is that we can say left, or we can say that player 1 starts from start. ठीक है, or we can say player 1 okay, write it as option A, that we will iterate, that we will add score in, that when the condition is that when player 1 starts from when player 1 is starting from start, and player 2 starting from start plus 1 index. Okay, this is the first condition, so I'm writing for that only. If he starts from we have to, like, we are moving our, like, start will move by 2 indexes because the first 2 elements of the array will be removed. So I am writing start plus 2 here. End will remain as it is, and the score will be, we will add in scores, that scores of nums of start, and for score 2 we will write score of 2 plus nums of start plus 1 index. Okay, start plus 1 index से होगा ना, let me write it like this. Okay, and let me copy all this. Similarly, we will write other 4 conditions. Okay, here let it be B, let it be C, let it be D. Okay, now this condition is satisfied. Now if player 1 starts from start only and player 2, sorry, here should be player 2 now. Now if player 2 starts from end, then we are just using, iterating start with 1 index, so I'm just writing start plus 1, and we are decreasing end index, so I'm writing end minus 1. Here it will remain as it is, and yeah, here we need to write nums of end because we are now adding nums of end only. In the third condition, similarly, uh, player 2 starts, now in the third condition player 1 will start from end, and in the fourth condition also player 1 will start from end. And here if player 2 starts with start, so we will write it like this, end minus 1, and here we will write, because now the player 1 is starting from end, and for here it will starting from start. Okay, again for here, last condition, player 1 will start, player 2 will start from end minus 1. Okay, so here we will not add 2, we will decrease end index by 2, and here I will write end, and here I will write end minus 1. See, always the first player will add take the first element, so the last one will be taken by first element first, and the second last element taken by second element. So it is like this only. Okay, so what we have to return at last is that return. Okay, let me change the, like, it should be boolean. Okay, what we will return is that return a condition and b condition, otherwise c condition and d condition. So I hope it may work, but let's check. So there is a compilation error that end is not defined. Okay, I forgot to write the end element. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we missed one condition, that if the size here you can see for this is not executing, if start is equals to end, then we have to return score of 1 plus nums of start should be greater than equals to score of 2. So this is required. So it is accepted. Now we will just submit the question, and here you can see it is accepted, and this is how we will do this question. Thank you.